the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
So we got to take a picture of every package at your front door.
How many Cola Guards do you pick up?
Yeah, the shit boxes. I know what you did in that box. I know all too well what you did in that box. Yeah, no, they're. I probably deliver 2 or 3 every day, and then you're like, "Yep, I'll be picking that up tomorrow." Hey, listen, you know what? It should be biohazard. It should be hazardous material. As soon as I get one of those, I put it in a plastic bag.
Bigfoot should be leaving those out on the edge of the forest.
Speaking of Bigfoot, Sasquatch Sunset, dude. What's going on with this episode?
I don't know. It's got to be linked somewhere. It's got to be.
I've done my due diligence as far as I can tell. Cinephile Mike has not dropped our name. And it's just that one episode, and it just seems to be on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
This has exploded. So you do know what this means, right?
No, tell me.
Welcome to TMI, Confessionals of the Cryptid Kind, where we are going to talk Bigfoot 24/7.
That's what the people want. Maybe that's what we should give.
I don't know. Maybe just all these people are like, listen, I'm not going to go see this movie. Thank you for taking the bullet. And I'm just going to listen to what you have to say. I mean, we even got comments. People were actually commenting.
Maybe we could just do a Bigfoot movie podcast.
There's plenty of them out there.
There are.
How many movies? Yeah, but every movie is just, him, like you said, lusting after women and rampaging. Yeah, we don't need to give the big guy negative advertising. I don't know. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Who knows? Maybe there's like a large Jesse Eisenberg contingency out there that just, whatever. I appreciate it.
You know who it's not? I guarantee is Michael Cera, because I think he's still bitter over the Jesse Eisenberg.
You could put 2 of those guys in a room, and I probably would have a hard time to decipher which one is which. Yeah. Yeah. Were you Social Network? No, not you. No, that wasn't you. No. Okay.
Speaking of Sasquatch Sunset, I left a joke on the table last week. Since we're talking about it, I want to share it now.
All right.
That scene where Jesse Eisenberg, as the younger Bigfoot, wakes up with his first glorious morning wood.
Oh, yes.
He has become at that point a hominid.
Nice.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, thank you. All right. This is why you got to commit these things to notes. So yeah, there's plenty of times when I get through my notes at the end of the day and I'm like, I never pointed that out, or I never said that funny thing. So, but that's the beauty of having our own show. You could actually go back, re-edit last week's episode, put that joke in there and
Right, but then the 81 people that have already viewed it on YouTube, and thank you very much to those that did, won't hear it because they won't listen to it again.
No, they'll have to go back and re-listen to it. This is like the re-release of when Lucas released Star Wars.
Yes, the director's cut. The director's cut.
Yeah. So we'll have to do like a whole not TMI rewind. We just do director's cut.
And speaking of, I just want to give a shout out to Freshly Brewed Truth on YouTube, who subscribed to us and actually commented on our Sasquatch Sunset. So thank you very much.
Freshly Brewed Truth?
Yes.
Is it a coffee podcast?
No, it's faith-based, and I think I will subscribe back.
Okay.
Right now. I have done.
Look at you. As we speak, we just did that.
Yes.
Real time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
very much. Yes, they did think we were hysterical. So
That's
thank
always
you.
nice to hear.
I keep trying to tell my wife I'm
Mhm.
hysterical, but she's not having any of it. So what are we talking about this week?
Today we are talking the biz. And when I say the
Yes.
biz, I mean showbiz.
Showbiz.
We are talking The Fall Guy, which is kind of a movie within a movie, if you look at it in a certain way. A reimagining, if you will, of the classic 1980s TV show.
How much did they reimagine that?
Yeah, well, they
They're
took
like,
some
oh,
names.
here's the concept, so let's just go.
Here's
with
the
that.
truck. Here's your character name, and we
Yeah.
got some cameos for you at the very end if you sit through the
Yeah.
credits. And along with that, we've got a movie that I've actually heard of, but I'd never seen before this
Okay,
viewing.
that's interesting. So it's
Yeah.
the first time for you.
Kevin Bacon, pretty fresh off of his Footloose, just breakthrough, just a few years out of that. In the 80s still with The
Yep.
Big Picture.
Yes. Directed by one Christopher Guest.
Wow, I had no idea when I saw
I
his
know.
name in Michael McKean.
Yeah.
All over the credits. I'm like, this is like a
Uh-huh.
proto Best in Show and everything that he went on to do.
Yeah. And speaking of cameos, there's quite a few cameos that
Yeah.
pop up in that as well.
Yeah, half a Spinal Tap is in this movie.
That is true. That's very exciting. We're going to get into that. Before we do that, you want to do a little news? Well, since we just mentioned Mr. Lucas's opus, Jim, do you know where you were May 25th, 1999?
Well, I wasn't at the theater on opening night. Even then, I was like, there's no way I'm going anywhere near a theater on opening night. But I can tell you where I was maybe about a week later.
Okay. We are talking about we're sitting on the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace.
Yes. And let me tell you, there were a lot more people in my theater on Saturday, just yesterday now, on May the 4th, coming to see The Phantom Menace than there were The Fall Guy.
Well, it was Star Wars Day,
Mm-hmm.
May the 4th. Although, to be honest with you, listen, you can't get around May the 4th be with you. It just writes itself. It's genius. But May 25th should be Star Wars Day. That was the original release date of Episode 4, A New Hope.
It's Memorial Day weekend, so
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
it's
No,
too
listen,
many
like I said,
holidays. Too many holidays.
May the 4th be with you. Actually, today is Revenge of the 5th. If you want to step into this whole,
Could you actually do a Star Wars theme for every single day?
I'm pretty sure somebody could. I will tell you, yesterday being May 4th, I was on multiple text threads with friends I have not talked to in quite some time, only because we all have the shared love of Star Wars or dislike for this particular movie. Because when The Phantom Menace was released, I mean, I looked it up. It made over $1 billion, but it was pretty lukewarm reception.
We always mention this when we talk about an old Godzilla movie and watching them on TV, where it was really all you had. You just only were able to take what they would give you. And that was really the case with The Phantom Menace. There wasn't the explosion of Star Wars media like there is today. It was a big deal when this.
Oh, it's huge. The anticipation was like undescribable. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, people were back waiting in line for days. I do remember trying to watch the trailer online was just a chore. Those were the early days of the internet, and you couldn't just type in StarWars.com. It was some weird ass / / ... But watching it unfold, and you're just like, well, this is it. We're getting a new Star Wars movie. And I'll tell you, I did not get tickets for opening night either, but I was gifted tickets from this gentleman. He was our banker at Wells Fargo. And he knew I was a Star Wars nerd. And we got talking about it. Now, we were pregnant with my daughter. We were in the process of moving houses. And he had tickets and he gave them to us. And he said, you go and you watch this movie. So we did go opening weekend. And then probably 2 months later, pulled all our money out of the bank and moved. And he was not happy with that. He sacrificed his tickets. But I do thank him, Mike from Wells Fargo, all those years ago. I'll tell you right now that I have friends who still scoff at this.
I wanted so badly to like it. I saw it maybe 3 times in the theater. As a matter of
For
fact,
a movie you didn't like, you saw it 3 times.
Well, no. After the first time, I had talked myself into.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just me. It must be
No.
good. So I actually really did like the final lightsaber battle.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go see it again just to see, just to erase all these doubts. And it didn't. It just made them stronger.
Yeah, no, I mean, the one thing I will say, which is, we now have a whole generation that grew up with this as their Star Wars. These prequel movies are their Star Wars. And, the onset of Clone Wars and Bad Batch and the Obi-Wan series have really kind of fleshed this out. And I think made it not a better film, but at least it's just one cog in a much larger. I mean, poor Ahmed Best, this guy was 26 at the time. He was hired to do a job, and he probably was the first original cyberbullying online, because people just shit all over this guy. I mean, he was suicidal. Jake Lloyd, you're crapping on a kid. He was just hired to play this character, and we've heard numerous times, George Lucas doesn't really know what to do with actors. They're just a byproduct. So Ahmed Best is now getting some loving. He's back out on the convention circuit. Filoni and Favreau went out of their way to give him the role as a Jedi who saved Grogu in Anakin's onslaught of the younglings. So redemptive arc for that actor. Jake Lloyd,
let me tell you, it was very gratifying though yesterday to be in that theater and watch all the families coming in excited to go see this movie. And you could tell it was just the parents of these kids coming in were just about the age to have been their age in 1999. And I saw this back in the early 2000s, right around when this movie first came to home viewing. Lots of kids love this because of the Anakin character
and Jar Jar.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that character is designed. Yeah, that's my one gripe, which is, everyone's looking this through the lens of, when you're a kid, we love Star Wars. And then, 20 years later, this comes out and it's still aimed at kids, but you're no longer a kid. So it doesn't speak to you. And so in that regard, Lucas has done his job. He got a whole new generation on board.
But just think of it this way, because a lot of us, it could be argued, are still kids. So it's not like we are businessmen watching some,
I will. I'm entrenched enough in this, some of these nerd groups, and just some people are just very cynical. It's like, you can't, I don't know. They just get over yourselves. It's
but here's the thing is that Star Wars, I would argue that it wasn't just appealing to kids in the 1970s. It was generational. All
the original
it.
Star Wars, I agree with. It came at a time in America where we were coming out of the Vietnam War, and it was unlike anything we had seen. And it was a modern day fairy tale. No, I agree. Yeah, I was not blown away by this by any means. Phantom Menace. There's some goofy parts in it, but listen, it is what it is. And like I said, whole new generation. I had kids coming in. You see my studio. I've got toys up on the wall. And one of my son's friends came in once and he's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Who's that?" "That's Han Solo." He goes, "Oh, I like Obi-Wan." Get out of here. So it's out. It's been re-released in the theaters, and they didn't touch it. They didn't add to it. They didn't make Jar Jar shoot first. They just left it alone. Unlike Lucas, I think if Lucas re-released this, he would have been tinkering with it. All right. So anyways, yes, I don't know what it did over the weekend, but based on your observations, I guess people are going to see it.
Yeah, I think on Friday night is like the latest box office numbers that I saw. It was number 3. It came in behind Fall Guy. I forget what number 2 was, but it was number 3.
Nice. Okay, not bad. Cool. All right. Next news item. I just saw there's a new market research poll that claims, and I think we've already established this. We knew this a long time ago. 92 minutes is the ideal movie length for American audiences.
I would concur. Yes, that's my ideal length. Definitely.
Yes, I think we've said that many times. I guess they just sit outside movie theaters and ask people, how long are you willing to sit in the theater? You got to start cutting these commercials though, because my movie starts at 11:30, but it's almost 12 o'clock before the movie.
Yeah. If you want to
starts.
go see the commercials and the trailers, get there early. Start those things early. We've often said it, and have the movie start at the time that it says it's going to start.
Well, it's captive audience. Say, well, but it's not even like Regal doesn't even do the 20 now with Maria Menounos. She shows up, but she's not interviewing anybody. They just run ads and a couple trailers, and then thanks for watching. Like oy. So so I guess 15% of these people polled said 120 minutes, which is 2 hours, was acceptable. 2% were happy with longer than 150, which is 2.5 hours. And I laugh because 8 of the top 10 grossing movies of all time are over 3 hours. You've got Avengers Endgame, Avatar, Titanic, Spider-Man No Way Home. These are all like 3-hour movies.
Well, I think people are more than willing to sit for 3 hours to watch Avengers Endgame, because this has been building up over 10 years, right? So if it's an epic, like Avatar probably is, that was Cameron trying to make an epic, and he succeeded.
Well, he did succeed, and especially if you saw it in IMAX, 3D IMAX.
Yeah, but these movies, I think the audience begs for them to be longer, hence them being in the top 10. But if you've just got a movie...
Titanic, it's like, well, we know the boat's going to sink.
Well, again, this is Cameron trying to self-fulfill, his epics, and he's successful there too.
Is he like Stephen King, where he just doesn't have an editor to tell him no?
I think that everybody's afraid of him, right?
Yeah. So, well, he's proven himself, right?
Yes, he has. Yeah.
So, again, that's almost like a non-news item, because we've already established that a long time ago that 90 minutes in and out.
Whatever I'm about to say about the Fall Guy, it could have been a half an hour shorter.
All righty. And so finally, we were talking about blockbusters. Obviously, with last year's success of Barbie, Mattel-owned properties have been jump-started and put into production pipeline. They're all on board. We talked about this where I think it was the last Transformers movie, and there's a little tease of G.I. Joe at the end. And so now we're talking about this Mattelverse or whatever. So anyways, Variety is reporting that a long-awaited live-action Masters of the Universe movie now has a release date.
Is it August of 1987? Because
it's already been there, done that.
It's already been there. I don't know how long awaited it is, because it's already come out several decades ago.
Yeah, well, I think they're pretending it doesn't exist, except for the fact that when you read the synopsis, Amazon MGM Studios are teaming up for this. And it looks like right now it's got a release date of June 5th, 2026. And it's being directed by Travis Knight, who did direct Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee, which is one of the more liked Transformers movies in the franchise. But here's the synopsis for this movie. Masters of the Universe introduces a 10-year-old Prince Adam who crashes to Earth in a spaceship and was separated from his magical power sword, the only link to his home on Eternia. After tracking it down almost 2 decades later, Prince Adam is whisked back across space to defend his home planet against the evil forces of Skeletor.
So it's Crocodile Dundee. Prince Adam out of water.
But we already had...
You call that a power sword? This is a power sword.
It's a cringer. It's a cringer. We've already said, why are you doing this? Why are you once again taking him away from his magical realm? That's exactly what happened in the 87 Dolph Lundgren movie.
Sounds like the first Thor movie.
Yeah, because he needs to uncover the mysteries of his past and become the He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. I will tell you, I don't know if you've watched the animated series on Netflix that Kevin Smith rebooted. I think it's called Revelations.
No, I have not seen that.
It's actually pretty well done. I guess Netflix had this at one point, and they already invested $30 million into it before they abandoned it. Who's got $30 million to throw around?
You got to have Orko in this. Got to have Orko.
Well, you got to just embrace the world.
And Merman. I would expect nothing less than
right.
Merman.
Man at Arms, Skeletor. Yeah, I don't know. It does not sound appealing to me right now. I guess, again, if you're going to do this Mattel verse and you want to establish that he's somehow, that you could theoretically have him side by side with a Transformer or a G.I. Joe. But I don't know. Just go like full on Toy Story. Just make this animated. And you can do whatever you want. Make them toys. Do them like small soldiers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, that's in production, but there's many Mattel properties who are in active development. Are you ready for this? We have Barney. We have Bob the Builder, which is being produced by Jennifer Lopez. Polly Pocket being written by Lena Dunham. Rock'em Sock'em Robots with Vin Diesel. And we all know that I guess they couldn't get Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I know. They already made that, and it was called Real Steel.
Yeah. American Girl Doll. Hot Wheels being produced by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot production.
Are they not trying to get kids in the theater? Or are these just, for adults that grew up with these particular toys?
Well, that's just it. I mean, who has a Magic 8 Ball with Blumhouse? Magic 8 Ball. Is this just like what's my future Magic 8 Ball? And it's haunted. I don't know. I mean, we've seen this before when they greenlit Battleship, and it was actually entertaining.
That sounds like a joke trailer, Magic 8 Ball. Like,
Magic 8 Ball.
That would be like an SNL skit.
Coming soon. Connect 4. Pretty tricky, sis. I don't know. I'm amazed that movies even get made with the level of studio interference and whatnot. And
but yet,
we'll see that.
But yet Parker Brothers is not brokering a deal with Marvel to bring ROM to the big screen.
No, or Micronauts for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's money left on the table right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I think we are getting a Monopoly movie. Although someone can yell at us 2 years from now when we're covering Monopoly the movie.
No, Monopoly 6,
Monopoly.
The Last House on Park Place. Yeah.
Right. B&O Railroad.
That was always a big joke, though, B&O. Oh, you got B&O Railroad.
So anyways, all right. So that's my news.
I saw a lot of good previews before.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
Fall Guy. Maxine. It's the third in the series. If we're going to cover this, Jeff, you're going to have to see the other two.
I am going to have to go see the other two, which is Pearl and
X.
X.
Yes.
And this is Maxine with 3 X's.
Yes. Now X came first. So then Pearl is a prequel. And this would be the natural third of the series.
And this is the same actress. I can't think of her name.
Mia Goth in all 3.
Mia Goth, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bike Riders, which seems that Tom Hardy is again channeling Eddie Brock in this role.
There was some weird.
I couldn't understand a word that this guy said.
No, that's insane. I hope there's subtitles because. Yeah. Oh, you can. Excuse me. What? Get on your bike and ride.
Mike Tyson was his vocal coach for this movie.
Bike Riders. They couldn't even come up with a better Bike Riders.
Deadpool 2 or Deadpool 2.
Know.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
This is the first time I've seen any because I have stayed away from it. But I will tell you, I'm surprised we didn't get a Craven, especially with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
They're never going to really. After Madam Web, I doubt that'll ever see the light of day.
It's out there. They got backed up once. Maybe they'll get backed up again. So yeah, this is just the teaser of Deadpool. Because you don't really see Wolverine, you just see him in silhouette, in shadow.
Although you get all the TVAs, you know that they're involved.
Well, there's a lot going on here. So,
a new Shyamalan movie, but it's not M. Night. Is that his daughter that's directing this movie?
Did I misread that? Because I've seen this 2 different versions of this trailer, and I just saw the Shyamalan. Don't know the Watchers, right? I can't imagine someone else comes along. They're like, "Oh yeah, my name is Shyamalan as well."
Directed by Aishana Night Shyamalan.
Oh,
now let me see who this is. She's an American filmmaker. She'll make her directorial debut with The Watcher. She is the daughter of filmmaker M. Night Shyamalan,
and her name is Aishana.
Yes,
Shyamalan. That's evil for friggin' parents.
Now, I was watching this before the title was revealed, and I'm like, is this called The Village Happening?
Yeah, correct. Right.
Because at the end of this, it's going to be revealed that whatever monsters are not monsters, they are just people in costumes.
Yeah. Or the people in the cabin are the monsters.
Mhm.
They're the real monsters.
So yeah, I was nonplussed with that one. Twisters, you see this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a rehash. I'm assuming that she's supposed to be Helen Hunt's daughter. It's just we have two Twisters now. Listen, I love the first Twister. It is a guilty pleasure for me. My daughter's friend is actually now working with NASA because that movie gave her a lifelong obsession with weather. So she went to Cornell University for meteorology, and she's now one of these knuckleheads that gets in a plane and flies into the middle of a tornado to read data. Good on her.
I wouldn't do it.
No, of course. Well, someone's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. How about you?
Listen, if she invited me along, I would happily join in.
So the last trailer after Twisters that I got was Despicable Me 4.
Yes, which I laugh my hands off every time I see it. They are just a gift that keeps on giving.
Steve Carell as Gru. That is. Oh, just gold.
Did you see what was the other trailer? It was the Ryan Reynolds If?
Oh yeah.
Steve Carell.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that one. There's a lot of big names associated with it, but I don't quite understand it. The Fall Guy, directed by David Leitch. I think his last movie was Bullet Train.
Yeah, which we liked, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But yeah, he was involved in the first John Wick as co-director.
Yeah. Well, he is a stuntman. He was a stuntman.
Yeah. When you look at his resume, then yeah, it's got stunts all over every single one of these movies. Atomic Blonde, as you said, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw.
And this is the world we're going into. I don't think I ever watched the original TV show, maybe more than a handful of episodes.
Same here. I was familiar enough with it to know who these characters were. And when I heard that theme song over the final credits, it came back to me like, wow. Yeah, I remember this.
So going in, doing my research, Lee Majors sang that song.
Yeah. Oh, and it was obvious when you watched the show that was him singing the song. Okay.
Well, this is a Travis.
Blake Shelton,
Blake Shelton. Yeah. But right up front, when I was doing my IMDb research, I see that writer credits not only to Drew Pearce, but also to Glenn A. Larson. He created the original TV show. The guy died like 20 years ago.
Wasn't he the guy that ripped the paper out of his typewriter at the end of every show and threw it into the air?
No, that was Stephen J. Cannell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was at the end of the A-Team.
Okay.
Oh, you're showing your age right there. No, Glenn Larson, Knight Rider, Battlestar Galactica, and Buck Rogers. And when I started, I love this. Harlan Ellison referred to this guy as Glenn Larceny because he said he just stole every idea. I'm like, it doesn't matter because all those shows I adored as a kid. Buck Rogers in the 25th century? Hell yeah. Although I didn't like the Hawkman in season 2, but Battlestar Galactica, one and done. So yeah, The Fall Guy.
Before we actually get into it, what was your theater experience like? Was it a full theater?
Believe it or not, there was a fair amount of people in our theater. It was 11:30 showing on a Saturday. And it was a nice day out, but there was a fair amount of people. Maybe the rest of the people in the lobby were all going to see Phantom Menace.
Well, we, as I said, went to Albany. So we went to the Regal in the Colony Center in Albany, and I'd never been there before. Okay. And it just so happened because I saw it at 12:30. So about an hour after you, we were both sitting in the theater at around the same time. The showing, and I didn't pick this on purpose, but the showing that I bought tickets for was for the RPX Theater, which is the Regal Premium Experience.
Ooh.
So we go in, our local theater has no special theaters like this. They're all like 12 standard theaters. They're all stadium seating. But I always like to get on the last row of the seats on the bottom. So you're right in front of the screen. You're capturing everything. It doesn't seem that far away from you.
You got nice foot room.
Exactly. So we get the same seats when we buy tickets here at the booth. We go in and this screen is larger than an IMAX screen. And
really? Oh no, you were looking right up Gosling's nose the whole time?
so the commercials are on, and we sit down, and my wife's like, I can't do this. This is too much.
Oh,
So
it's
she
too
left.
much.
She grabbed the tickets and went back to the concession stand and switched our seats. So we
Oh,
moved
okay.
back, and it was definitely needed. This was amazing. And they had an IMAX screen separate to this. I'm like, well, what is their IMAX if this screen is this big?
Right.
It was extra surround sound, a lot of room in between you and the next row. It wasn't heated seats, it wasn't recliners, but it was a really nice experience. And I don't know if this is part of it or not, but a woman came in after we sat down and sat a couple of rows behind us in the stadium seating. 5 minutes later, a Regal employee comes in with popcorn, delivers it to her.
What?
Yes.
Really?
I don't know if she texted it or
row 7, seat 6. Yes, extra butter, please.
I would say that there were probably 20 other people in the theater.
Okay. All right. I
So-
think it did pretty good. I think it came out number 1 box office wise.
Yeah, I don't think that it did as well as they were projecting,
Oh, really?
but we won't know until the weekend's
Okay.
actually
Well,
over.
they've been doing a lot of promoting. It's out there, and I'll tell you, I've seen Gosling and Blunt on many an interview, and I'm sure you saw the red carpet.
I heard of it. I didn't actually see it.
Yeah,
I
where
heard
they
of it.
actually have stuntmen, come blasting through a fake window and beat the crap out of each other and knock down the logo, and it's fun. They really, right off the bat, you get that introduction from David Leitch and Ryan Gosling, telling everybody to don't text. Although Gosling tells you to do it inside your jacket. I'm like, no,
Yes.
no, you just tell them not to.
If it's an
Get up and leave the
emergency, he said if it
emergency.
was an emergency, then to text inside your jacket.
No, you get up and you walk out of the theater.
But that's when I was also, during this little introduction, I was waiting for them to, like you said before, to even mention the TV show. But no, they said again, this is a love letter to stuntmen.
Yeah. And it really is. And they've gone out of their way. But I think, yeah, there's a throwaway joke in the movie where at one point someone says, oh, you get an Oscar for that? And he's like, no. No, it's no different than costume design. It's an art.
Yeah.
And they really should be. I mean, listen, we've been saying this since 1978 with Burt Reynolds Hooper. The unsung hero of the movies are these stuntmen that are, putting their life on the line.
Yeah, but it gives the indication, though, when that's, and I've seen that word unsung used a lot in describing this movie. But you just mentioned Hooper. There's other movies out there that have paid them their due. So it's not like this is the first one.
There's a reason now that Brendan Wayne gets more traffic than Pedro Pascal whenever he goes to these conventions for the Mandalorian, because I mean, at this point, Pedro Pascal just shows up and does the voiceover.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Wayne is the guy in the suit running around doing all the stunts. So they are starting to get their due, and I would not be surprised if it becomes a new category. Well, even this guy, Chris O'Hara, who is credited as being the stunt designer, like this is a role that doesn't really exist. I mean, there's a stunt coordinator, and I'll tell you right now, Winston Duke's character, Dan, who is the stunt coordinator, is not very good at his job. M'Baku. Did you read it? He wants to be the Batman in James Gunn's DC universe. And I'm like, just let him be it. Just let him be Batman.
Yeah.
We've all the single white guys are out there. These they've already had their shot.
Yep.
Let them do it. I'd buy the ticket to that. So right off the bat, we get the little introduction. We get the Universal logo with I Was Made for Loving You, Kiss, disco version song that you shat all over.
No, I didn't.
We just heard it on the Godzilla Kong soundtrack.
We did. I do like this song, but I think that once you hear a song in a movie, I think they played it in Guardians Volume 3. Did they not? I've heard it in a major film recently before they played it in Godzilla X Kong.
Okay. All right.
So I really think that once like a major movie spotlights a song like that, there should be a moratorium on it for at least a couple of years.
But sometimes these movies are in development and maybe they don't know. Well, I mean, listen, Gene Simmons is a freaking genius and he is laughing all the way to the bank. They just sold the IP rights. So he sold their entire Kiss catalog, which includes their brand and their IP, for $300 million. Yeah. So I don't know if they're licensing out the song, if this was beforehand, but boy, they doubled down on this, because not only do you get the actual Kiss song, but then you also get a cover version of it, and you get a Muzak instrumental version like multiple times throughout the movie.
It's pretty much the theme song of this movie. But when I hear something like that, and I've just heard it in Godzilla X Kong, and I'm thinking, I know that they played this in some Guardians movie. It's like, it feels like they're jumping on the bandwagon, you know? And the same thing happened with that Queen song, Don't Stop Me Now. Like somebody played it in a commercial. Suddenly it's in every commercial.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that song. Yeah, we should play that song. Too bad we didn't get more Erasure. Bigfoot ruined that one.
Yes, Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Well, I don't think the Bigfoot ruined it, because nobody's going to go see that movie.
No, I don't care. I just hope Erasure got paid.
And Erasure's like, really? This is the movie that wants to use our song?
Right. That was free publicity for them. So yeah, right off the bat, you get this song, which I enjoyed.
I'm sure that they're going to play it in Furiosa as well during overview.
Oh, if they go that route, I'm out. Can't take me out of that movie. But we're introduced to Colt Seaver. Yes.
You know, thankfully, the same name, the same character name as Lee Majors from the original Fall Guy TV show.
Yeah. Emily Blunt's character is Jody, but it's a different last name, because I think Heather Thomas's character was Jody Banks.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Jody
I don't
Moreno.
remember them having an relationship.
No, not at all.
And Heather
I don't
Thomas.
think so. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't remember. Again, I didn't invest in that show. Yeah, they took the very basic premise of that movie, that he's a stuntman who moonlights as a bounty hunter.
Right.
And he drives a pickup truck.
Right. And so they almost get there, because Ryan Gosling, stuntman, is looking for someone, but he's not a bounty hunter per se.
He's thrust into a very convoluted plot. But we're introduced to him up front doing a stunt. We find out that he is a stuntman extraordinaire for this very famous actor, Tom Ryder, who you probably want to say is a Tom Cruise type of action hero.
Right. Although Tom Cruise does exist on his own in this universe, because he's mentioned.
We do make a Tom Cruise reference in here. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is an absolute chameleon.
I always want to call him Aaron Taylor Thompson, from the kid from Home Improvement.
Home Improvement.
No, that's Jonathan Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan, yeah.
You give me 3 names and I'll F it up every time. It doesn't matter. And right off the bat, you realize that this guy's a jerk. Just Tom Ryder.
Stereotypical Hollywood leading man.
He's upset because the stuntman performed a stunt and he gives too much face. You can see his face. That's not me. Everyone's going to know it's not me, because his jawline is different, even though they have the same hairstyle, same facial hair.
And you know what's fantastic about this opening is that you never really realize what's happening until you're in it. This is one long tracking
This is
shot.
all one single shot. Yeah. This is fantastic. Yes.
And like I said, it's not like, once it starts, you're aware, but as you're getting into the scene, wait a second, they haven't made a cut yet. So no, I'm curious.
I love stuff like this. And I love pointing it out and my wife's like, it's completely missed on me. So the fact that you picked up on that is great, because he's internal monologue. He's talking to the audience. Hey, there's the love of my life over there. She's the camera lady, and we got this cute little relationship going. And they do this cute little meet greet thing over the walkie-talkies as he's making his way up the elevator. He's got to redo the stunt.
Yeah, and the love of his life, played by Emily Blunt.
He goes all the way up to the top. They harness him in. This is him doing that stunt, because there is talk throughout this movie of using deep fake.
Although it did look to me like once they released him and the camera was above him, it did look like there was some CGI going on there.
Maybe, but I do know they've talked multiple times about this, in that he did that initial stunt. Don't get me wrong. The guy has 4 stuntmen throughout this movie, but they do honor those guys, especially in the end credits, where you see how they made this movie. But yeah, he's made it look like he's doing all this.
So when you're into a scene like this, that's one continuous scene, and then you realize it, I was immediately thinking, I want to watch this again just to see if there was a cheat somewhere. You know, if they like
normally if something walks in front, right? That's usually on the outside, it's perceived as one single shot.
Yeah.
Because he walks from outside the building, inside the building, gets in the elevator, goes all the way up to the top. They harness him in and then throw him over. And as you said, the camera follows him right down. Mm-hmm. And then you cut the black and it's 18 months later.
It's revealed that he broke his back because something went wrong during that stunt. Yeah. Maybe it was like a Gwen Stacy at the end of Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, no,
you do see him on the gurney. You see him on the gurney being rushed. Yeah, Gwen Stacy. But is 18 months long enough to recover from a broken back?
Well, yeah, that's the thing is he has a broken back. He's got some kind of, like a...
Yeah, you saw that once. Right.
Some kind of like...
Electrode thing.
And my question was, is that on his back during the entirety of the movie? Like, does he have that thing? Yeah. So, but and another question, because he says in the voiceover, like, 18 months later, I've got a broken back. I've been eating burritos. I'm like, doesn't look like you've been eating burritos.
No, correct, dude. Right? They're probably veggie burritos.
Even with a broken back, you still seem to remain more cut than any human being on the face of the earth.
Well, you want him to show up like Thor when he gave up and he had the big pot belly?
It would have been a little bit more realistic if he did.
Yeah. Listen, there's a lot to just kind of go with in this movie.
Of course there is.
I'll tell you right now, he gets thrown back in, not to ruin it. He gets thrown back in as a stuntman. They fly him to Australia, and immediately as soon as he gets off the plane, he's jet lagged, and they throw him into the stunt. And I'm like, this is not how this works at all. That's why I'm saying before that Dan Winston Duke's stunt coordinator is the worst in the planet.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't rehearse it. We're going to throw you in the truck and all the cameras are going to roll and you're going to roll this car 8 times.
And spoiler, because we're going to spoil this movie. And there are some twists. There's some twists and turns going on at the end.
Oh, they telegraph them pretty loud.
Okay, so he breaks his back at the beginning of the movie. 18 months later, he's feeling very sorry for himself. He's eating burritos. He's not taken a job since. And he has lost communication completely with his girlfriend, played by Emily Blunt. So he's
working as a valet. Yeah.
So he's called by Gail, who is Aaron Taylor Johnson's agent, or she's the producer of the movie.
She's the producer of the movie.
So out of the blue, she calls him and she's like, well, Jodie is now directing this sci-fi epic and she's requested that you come back and be her stuntman. Okay. And which is his girlfriend. And he's been trying to find a way to reconnect with her because he realizes he screwed up and he doesn't talk, because he cut off communication. He keeps
saying no until she says it's Jodie's movie and she requested you.
Yes. So then he's on the next plane to Australia and that's where they're filming this movie.
Yeah. You do not give a first-time director this major movie like this. This is a Dune level epic. And they even go to the extent of like playing the Dune soundtrack, the weird music.
Wasn't there a Metal Storm movie that they actually made?
I did see that there is a Metal Storm movie that the search for Jared Allen.
I have a very, very dim memory of this being in theaters.
Yes, this is some sci-fi romance where the tagline, it's high noon at the edge of the universe. And I'm like, there is no way a first-time director would get this big budget movie. But so the character that Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing is referred to as the space cowboy numerous times. I'm like, not one Call Me Maurice reference at all. None. Space cowboy. That's a given. So he makes it all the way to Australia.
That would have been great if the character's name in actuality was Maurice and they had a little scene that explained that.
No, not at all. No. And the alien he was in love with, her name was Alien. Yes. Aliana, I guess maybe something like that. But she was human looking. So it doesn't. It's like you said. It is a movie within a movie, because even when they're filming the special effects, they will just immediately cut to like a fully finished production movie with spaceships in the air and explosions and laser blasts and there's people in alien costumes. So it's pretty wild. It's a fun sequence of events. Some of these stunts take hours to set up, and yet they immediately throw him in the car. They send him on his way, but it all goes off.
Jodie, the director, is mad because he did accidentally take out one of the cameras. He got too close to which
he said was going to happen,
to the car in front of him. Yeah. And then when he gets out of the car, she comes over to yell at him. Then she realizes who it is. And of course, it wasn't her idea to bring him. He's the last person she wants to see.
Yeah, she's not very happy to see him.
No. And Gail's like, I had to tell you that or you wouldn't have come. And he's like, that's right. I wouldn't have come.
No, I wouldn't have come.
So this all makes sense, though, a little bit later on, because everybody has ulterior motives in getting this guy here.
Yeah, this really does play out like a TV episode.
Yeah, it does.
It's which is fine. If you're leaning into it and it's like, all right, we're just taking this television show and we're adapting it, then I'm on board.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are huge leaps in logic.
So Gail, it turns out that she really wanted him there to find her star. This is what she tells him, because Aaron Taylor Johnson, playing Tom Ryder, has gone missing. And this is where that bounty hunter aspect now creeps into the movie. We've got to keep this on the down low. Nobody knows that he's missing. It's only been a couple of days, but he's fallen in with the wrong people. You got to find him and save this movie. Bring him back to the set.
Right. And he's like, why me?
Yeah.
She's like, 'cause you're a stuntman. No one's going to miss you. You've been out of action for 18 months, which is really, she goes, no disrespect. And he's like, little disrespect. But is this where we get the nice little speech from Gail about nihilism is sexy bacon?
Something like that. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the name of this episode is Sexy Bacon, because we have a Kevin Bacon backup feature.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We are serving up some sexy bacon today, baby.
Colt is loaned a GMC truck to use while he's doing this mission.
Every show in the 80s had to have a signature vehicle.
A GMC truck was driven by Lee Majors in The Fall Guy in the TV show. But they tell him as he's given the keys by one of the guys backstage, be careful. We only have 2 of these trucks, and this was for product placement. Where are you placing these trucks? In metal store? It's
a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
That's funny. I never picked up on that.
Yeah.
You're right. It's like, where are you going to put it? Because everything else is super futuristic. That's pretty funny. There's a running joke where, she's worried, and we have this nice little interaction between them, because he's sitting in the truck and he's crying. He's exhausted. There's this woman that he's madly in love with. He says later on he couldn't figure out how to actually rekindle, and it just never happened. And she gets in the truck with him, and he's crying to a Taylor Swift song.
Now, I'm going to say something that may get me in hot water here.
Okay.
But whenever the movie focused on their relationship, when Emily Blunt comes in, the plot is moving forward with him looking for Tom Ryder. Suddenly there's the scene in the truck and she gets in. The movie stops for me.
Yeah. They have great chemistry together.
They do.
I think that they have, but you're right. It's almost like it's tonally, it wants to be a romantic comedy between the two of them, but it also wants to be this action, because she's not really involved in any of those sequences.
No, she's not. But they try to shoehorn her in, like have her talking to him on the cell phone during the middle of the action sequence.
Right.
Like, we got to include her some way. You're just on board with, okay, now we're moving forward. He's got to find Tom Ryder. And you're curious as well. Where's he going to find him? Who's he hanging out with?
And how long can you have your star missing?
Exactly. Suddenly that stops for 10 minutes,
Right.
And then, okay, now we'll get back into it. And that happens throughout the movie. Yeah,
you're right. I kind of went with it. I did like them together a lot.
Well, that was why I was so torn about it, because I think they do have great chemistry, but it's like 2 different movies are happening simultaneously.
Yeah, it's not really until the end sequence where she
finally the 2 stories merge,
because she doesn't know anything about what Gail has given him to do. It's all got to be on the down low, because her movie would be ruined if they found out that the lead actor was missing or not.
So the first place that he goes when he finally starts looking for Tom Ryder is his luxury apartment that he's renting out.
How long is that guy there? He's got props on the wall. I'm like, are you just renting that during the filming, or are you living there?
Which overlooks the Sydney Opera House, right? So it's like a perfect place.
I will tell you, I was in Sydney once in my life in 96. And it was the first time I ever had a fried egg on a burger and a beet for that matter. But Sydney Harbor, that whole area is fantastic. Love
Oh
it.
yeah, I've never been there, but
and it looks like they're filming. It looks like, I mean, at one point they're really they're filming in front of the Opera House.
well, yeah, I think the explosion that they do later is actually there. It's like a practical explosion right there. But so he's there. The apartment seems deserted. Suddenly, he's attacked by this girl, like a ninja girl,
Iggy
with a sword. So I'm getting visions of Kato from Pink Panther.
Pink Panther.
And so he's trying to talk to this. He's trying to talk to this girl. And she reveals she is Tom Ryder's girlfriend, and she's working on the movie. And he says to her, "I'm working on Metal Storm 2. No, you're not. We're only on the first one." He's
right.
I meant also.
You're so stupid. And he thwarts her by basically throwing his jacket on her.
But so this also confused me because he's wearing a Miami Vice jacket, and he says, "This is the first show that I worked on." I'm thinking, is this set in the 80s? No, he was just listening to Taylor Swift. But then I realized, they made a movie of Miami Vice, and
they are telegraphing large parts of what's going to happen in this movie, because he says, I got really good at driving a boat backwards, even handcuffed. All right, apparently that's going to happen later in this movie. I can jump through fire. That happens in a movie. I could take a punch with the best of them. So there's some weird disjointed stuff, because then he goes to the club. She leads him to the club, and that's where he meets the drug dealer, the guy with the leopard head.
Yep.
And they immediately drug him with a Shirley Temple. And
the drug dealer says, "You know what one of my favorite movies is? Dumbo. Pink elephants on parade."
That F me up, man. Yeah. Dumbo.
And then suddenly, because they've drugged Ryan Gosling, he is like seeing pink elephants on parade, but in his case, it's a unicorn.
Which shows up. It takes a while for him to become undrugged. But this fight sequence with the goons, it's like a Scott Pilgrim action sequence. You got power bursts and all things going on,
which is fun. This is probably my favorite sequence in the movie. Is as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and that's where he's like, "Stuntman." He goes, "You win an Oscar for that?" And he's like, "No." And then literally like looks right at the camera, like, "Hear me, Academy?" There's some really nice action sequences in here, but you're right. It does come to a screeching halt whenever he gets back involved with her.
Because right after this fight scene, he gets on this phone with her, and then there's like a long split screen sequence of them talking.
But that was genius. But to me, that was genius as a inside Hollywood, where she's talking about, well, what do you think? Because she's trying to work out the third act of this movie. And so why she's calling him, I think she's reaching out and just trying to connect. And so she's like, "Well, what do you think about a split screen?" And then immediately it's a split screen. It's a fun,
but it stops the forward momentum of him having the fight scene and then going to the hotel room to find the dead body, because because you have to remind yourself, okay, now where is he again? Okay, the guy told him to go to this room, and now he can't open the door with
you got to go meet Kevin at the front desk and ask for a fruit platter. I don't even remember why he's going there now. And that's where he finds the dead guy in the tub.
Covered in ice.
Yeah.
So he's like, "What's going on here?" He leaves, and he runs into like traffic cops down on the street, and he brings them up to the room. There's no body.
Because he's gonna call it in.
Yeah.
He's on the phone with her, and he goes, "There's a dead body." He goes, "I'm gonna call it in." She's like, "Oh, you're gonna call?" He goes, "I'm gonna call the cops." And then the cops show up, and I'm like, so later when he gets framed for this murder, it's like, but he called it in. Why would you call it? Yeah. So there's again, huge leaps in logic.
So I only assumed that because he's still tweaked and he's still seeing the unicorn, that he brings them up to the wrong room. That
I don't know, because he goes back up, and it seems to be like simultaneous. Like he goes down to the car, the cops ask him, "You're not supposed to be parked here." He tells them what's going on, and immediately goes back to the room, and the guy's gone. This whole sequence to me was very disjointed, because I felt like, that he was still tripping, and that we were going to find out that none of this happened.
But
that's what later
on, you find out that the body was never taken out because it was still in ice later on. So I'm thinking at that point, he must have gone to the wrong room when he brought the police back up.
It doesn't, again, huge leaps in logic, because it's never explained or expounded upon. You're just like, all right, well, it's now gone. Mystery.
instead of going through the rest of the movie, it's eventually revealed that the reason that he was brought there in the first place by Gail, the evil producer, is that she is trying to cover up this murder that accidentally happened. Tom Ryder killed the guy that was in the bathtub.
His new stunt man.
That was his new stunt
because
guy.
he was at a party going, I do my own stunts. He goes, yeah, you do your own stunts? Really? And he's like, I'll show you. And then basically accidentally, but it was an accident. That you don't go into hiding for that and ask your producer to cover it up.
And it was at a party. More people than just him witnessed this.
All these guys want is the phone that had the video on it. Okay.
So now they're chasing Colt for the rest of the movie to get that phone away from him. And in the meantime, she brought him there. She never needed him to find Tom Ryder in the first place. They wanted to pin this on him.
He's literally the fall guy.
Yeah.
He's literally the fall guy. They want him because they mention it numerous times, the idea of deep fake. And when he first got on set, they rotoscanned his entire face so that they can use it for the video. What
they really did it for. But, it made sense to him because that's what you do to a stunt.
Actually,
so you can put.
To be honest with you, you don't scan the stunt man. You scan your leading actor so that you can wrap his face around the stunt bag, so you don't have to do retakes. Too much face. Sorry. Listen, the last Indiana Jones, the guys who riding the horses, the special effects guys riding the horses, had Harrison Ford rubber masks on.
So the whole thing with the body and the ice, they're keeping it on ice long enough for him to get there to pin the murder on him. But I'm like, you
forensics would be able to
still can't be able to figure out time of death. Even if it was on ice,
again, huge leaps in logic.
Yeah,
and the bad guys who are basically the handlers of Tom, because we get that redheaded guy. Dressler or whatever his name is, running around with guns and they're chasing, shooting. It's like you said, there was multiple people at this party who witnessed this death. So what happened to all these people? No, we just want the MacGuffin is the damn phone. All he wants the phone. So they capture him, beat the crap out of him. Sure enough, there's Tom. He's living large on a boat.
He's living low until they can pin this on the fall guy. And they pour gasoline on him, and it was pretty cool because he takes a mouthful of gasoline.
And you saw that again. You saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a nice little Gene Simmons reference right there.
Yeah, and they're about to set him on fire to burn him alive, but as soon as the match gets lit, he blows the mouthful of gasoline onto the bad guy, and that's how he escapes.
In gasoline, though.
Yeah, there's a boat chase after he escapes the gasoline death.
Right. Which is
in Sydney Harbor,
Miami Vice. Yeah.
But again, it stops so he can call her on the cell phone.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's like hiding. You're right. And he's on the phone with her or whatever. And then he decides he sees the big, I guess they're just big, giant propane tankers sitting in the middle of Sydney Harbor. Blows up. He's dead. Bad guys call into Gale. Yep, he's been taken care of.
Oh, he's a stuntman. He escapes things like this, like Houdini.
Yeah. But she calls Jody, tells her that he's dead. And then, all right, we got to finish this film. It's like,
So the climax of the movie takes place on the set of Metal Storm. So after they think he's dead, Tom Ryder thinks everything is back to normal again. They can pin it on the fall guy. He can go back to work. So he shows back up on set to film the last scene, the big stunt spectacular. They're trying to set a record by jumping over a gorge or something at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's established pretty early on that Tom Ryder is an idiot. And he often says inappropriate things on camera, forgetting that the cameras are rolling. So their plan is there's no reason he should change now. We'll get him to confess on camera and have it on audio. But, that's not good enough. We are going to teach him a lesson by making him involved in the gorge.
This is television show level mentality.
Yep.
He sneaks back on set in one of the alien costumes. Like he just steals it and sneaks on set, tells her he's still alive. And then they make this plan. So
let me also ask you in terms of leaps in logic.
Yes.
So Cole and Dan are running away from the red-haired guy and their goons in the apartment. That's when they have the $6 Million Man little sound effect. So the red-haired guy is now looking for both of them. Yet Dan just shows up to work as normal
and
with the red-haired guy on set, and they no longer care.
No, I think he's at the craft table. Why don't you go over there? Yeah, no, again, just none of it makes any sense. And we didn't even talk about the karaoke. She's singing Against All Odds while he's in a knockdown drag out fight with these guys. We got a dog involved that goes by the name Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he only responds in French. And he's six balls, like the dog from
Stand By Me. Chopper.
Sick balls, yeah. And I'm laughing because I'm like, I remember that video Against All Odds. I don't think I ever saw the movie, but there is a huge sequence where a car runs into a trash compactor. And that's what they're fighting in, is like one of the trash compactor boxes. And I'm like, this is very meta going on here right now. So yeah, so this end sequence where they trick him into getting into the car, they handcuff him, he thinks it's for a scene. We're just going to do blue screen. We just need your reaction shots.
And then Colt like jumps in the car with him, and suddenly they're going to do the stunt with Aaron Taylor Johnson in the car.
Yeah.
And that's how he's going to get the confession at the same time.
And he even says at one point, he goes, this is entrapment. And he goes, no, you're wearing the wire. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that this is entrapment. I think that if he wanted to fight this, you coerced the confession out of him.
The biggest thing that I took away from this scene was Aaron Taylor Johnson doing a Matthew McConaughey impersonation.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing in this
as
movie.
the space cowboy.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing in this, but yep, we end up with helicopters and it's like the cartridge that Jen Ezra was trying to take from the Death Star.
Yeah,
of the battle plans.
Because after the big jump and they get the confession, it's not over yet. Now Gail is trying to get her hands on that tape, and she does. And then there's like one more helicopter fight where Ryan Gosling has to jump and hang in on the bottom of the helicopter and gets in.
And he's jumping from side to side or whatever. And they live happily ever after. Bad guys are caught.
Yep. And the movie comes out. And of course, as soon as you start to see the fake trailer, I'm like, how can they release this movie if Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is now a murderer? But
so
that was answered for me. That was answered.
Which is interesting. And I'll let you reveal that, because my go-to was, all right, we've talked numerous times about this idea of deep fake. So they're just going to make Colt the hero. Colt's going to be the lead actor. No, that's not the case at all.
That would have been a very natural ending to this movie, and then have the movie be a hit. And then suddenly the stuntman is no longer unsung. But no, they apparently have reshot the whole movie with Jason Momoa.
How much movie did they just piss away reshooting the entire movie with your lead actor? So, and again, Jason Momoa shows up for like a split second and he's having a grand old time. And
it's revealed that the trailer that you're seeing is the trailer that they're showing at Comic-Con.
At Comic-Con, yeah. All's well that ends well. That is a monumental budget right there.
To give the stunt people even more of their due, over the closing credits, you're seeing behind the scenes footage of the stunts that are being done for this movie.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I love stuff like that.
If you're one of these people that goes on your phone to see, is there a closing credit scene? Do I have to stay and sit here? They actually give you something to watch as you're waiting for the credits to roll. They're
almost like the outtakes from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, it's enjoyable because you are watching the stunts. And again, they're highlighting the stuntmen who are covering for Ryan Gosling, who is the stunt guy.
And as we mentioned, as you're watching this footage, you're hearing the theme song from the Fall Guy TV show.
Yeah.
I'm the unknown stuntman. I do remember this. This is like that was on like par with the Dukes of Hazzard theme.
I would have been very hard pressed to remember one note of that. But
really?
As soon as it came, but when it came on, I recognized it. But yeah.
And that's not the only homage that they give, because if you do stick around, they do have Lee Majors as a cop. And what's funny is
and Heather Thomas.
You see Gail and Aaron Taylor Johnson getting arrested, and the cops that arrest them are Lee Majors and Heather Thomas.
But not before he gets blown up.
Yes, he gets blown up, just like the bear and Grizzly. He's no longer there.
They didn't make mention of the fact that he was killed, but it was kind of a funny throwaway. But yeah, we do get Lee Majors and Heather Thomas.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson says, "You're not real cops. You're stand-ins."
You're under arrest. Yeah. Which I guess was a standard line in the show. Listen, This was silly, over the top, ridiculous. It's preposterous, but I did enjoy it.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yes.
The quibble I have, I've already said many times, is it just I think it was too long, and it could have done with a fewer of those meet cute type scenes between Ryan Gosling and
because it really
Blunt.
kind of borders on, Sam and Diane, will they or won't they?
Yeah.
But again, they talk about, well, we need to figure out the third act of this. So you feel like they're really trying to work out the third act of this movie in real time. Do we get back together? Do we not get back together? Of course we're going to get back together.
So this movie is over 2 hours as it is. So if they had just cut a few of those scenes, keep it like an hour and 40 minutes, I think it would have been much more palatable, and it would have flowed. I just wanted some more flow. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. I did see you would talk about that stunt at the beginning of the movie, whether or not Gosling really did that full jump. I don't know how high that was, but the record for a movie was a 1981 Burt Reynolds Sharky's Machine, and a performer by the name of Dar Robinson. If you're familiar with that name, he was a very famous stunt guy. Actually did a free fall 220 feet, dropped from a helicopter. And we actually have a helicopter tragic story tie-in with the second movie.
Yes. And I was shocked when I had no idea. But yeah, we'll get there. But how many buckets would we give to the Fall Guy?
I want to give this 4 buckets.
You want to give this 4 buckets?
I am going to give this 4
okay.
buckets. I enjoyed this. I thought this was fun. It is not perfect by any means. Like you said, there's really weird, disjointed, but they just, both of these lead characters are very likable. Ryan Gosling, I could have done without him in any other movie. I don't know. For some reason, he's kind of growing on me.
Yeah, he's very, very likable.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3.5.
Okay.
With this one. Right. This is out of 5. Again, we got to quantify that. It's out of 5 buckets. It's enjoyable. It was a pleasant way to spend the afternoon.
We spent worse.
Yes.
Worse afternoons.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It was fun. And as much as I, didn't like the interruptions, I do think that they had chemistry. It just the action.
Like I said, it was a bit disjointed. It was not.
It didn't gel. It didn't completely
there was no flow.
Gel.
Yeah. But that's fine. And the dog does kind of steal this movie.
Yes.
A handful of times that he's in it. But yeah, go check it out.
All right, there you go. Fun. Fall Guy. Okay, so let's go to the concession.
Yes,
please.
Let's treat go. Today.
My treat. Yes, and we've got to step into the time machine for this one because you can't get this candy. I figured I'd go 80s. I'd go 80s since.
Alrighty.
This is based on the 80s show, The Fall Guy, and the next movie that we are looking at is an 80s film. I wanted to go back in time a little bit and talk about a candy that no longer exists in any way, shape, or form.
I miss it already.
It's Bonkers.
Bonkers.
Yes.
Wow, that is a name I have not heard in a long time.
Now, Bonkers is near and dear to me because you would often see full-page ads on the back cover of many of our comic books in the mid to late 80s.
You are correct.
And not only did you see, and often these were illustrated, it looked like that kind of Mad Magazine-ish. Maybe it was the same illustrator that did Mad Magazine.
Oh, maybe. Jack Davis.
But the kind of figurehead, I don't think she had a name. But it was like an old lady that looks like she stepped right off of the Norman Rockwell painting, right? And she was on these commercials. In the mid-'80s, I think mostly around 86, you saw a ton of Bonkers commercials, pretty much sequestered to Saturday morning TV, but that was your target audience.
That was your target audience.
The tagline, Bonkers, bonks you out. Now, what would happen in these commercials? You'd see people get struck from above by giant pieces of fruit, grape or orange, and then they'd usually be grumpy or what have you. Then they'd get hit by the fruit and be laughing hysterically.
That's exactly what happens whenever I get hit with a watermelon.
Yes. And so Gallagher, hence Gallagher, right? His whole career is probably based on this.
His whole career is based on Bonkers?
Yeah.
He was Bonkers.
So there was multiple commercials, and if you look on YouTube, you'll see them all. But the most famous one that I remember had this lady in that Norman Rockwell kind of dress saying,
Some folks don't believe the super fruitiness of Bonkers fruit candy. They learn soon enough. Some folks think Bonkers is gum. They know it's candy now. With this extra fruity inside, Bonkers is so super fruity.
Bonkers. Bonks you out.
Some candy!
Artificially flavored.
Now, is this with the juice inside or no?
It wasn't exactly juice, but it was two-toned. You are right about that.
Okay.
So, I just picture a loaf of Bonkers and then
Yep,
being
yeah, 'cause
cut
they were
into little individual.
Because they were square, were they not?
They were
Or am
little
I-
square pieces.
Okay, yep.
And they had say if it was like a lime flavor Bonkers, it would be green, and then there'd be like a deeper green on the inside of it. So it was two like shades of the same flavor, but a little bit different from one another. Now, this was a huge hit in the 80s because of those commercials and because of the ad campaign.
Marketing at its best.
But the popularity waned almost immediately after the commercials went off the air. So it couldn't sustain itself for some reason. It's almost like if kids weren't reminded of it, they
You had to
wouldn't pick it
remind
up. But why? If kids loved it so much,
I don't know.
it's not like you needed to continuously give you commercials about M&Ms. Although they do to this day.
Right.
Maybe there is something to do. I don't know. But as
Gotta
regardless,
keep them in the limelight, yeah.
as soon as those commercials stopped, the candy kind of fell to the wayside. Nabisco introduced it and discontinued it in the mid to late 90s. So
not even a 10-year run?
not even, probably more like a 12 or 13-year
Okay.
run. But I only remember them from the mid 80s, so maybe I never bought them again once the commercials started, or once I stopped seeing the ads in the backs of comic
Right.
books. Again, described as fruit chews, same relative shape or same idea as a Starburst, but it was better than a Starburst. Starburst are kind of like the lame member of the fruit chew family.
Wow, throwing shade at
Yes.
Starburst.
So the outer color of the Bonker had more of the traditional flavor, while the inner color had like the tang part of it. So there was like the sweet and bitter kind of a thing, juxtaposition going on with a Bonker. They were all wrapped individually in their little sleeve of it's just much like Starburst are, so you know what flavor you're getting when you
Yep.
unwrap a Starburst. Same thing with Bonkers.
But these are not to be confused with, was it Freshums?
That was more of like a breath saver kind of a thing.
But then they had like
but that was chewy. That had a juice splash in the middle of it. I forget what the names of those were. This was straight chewy candy. There was no juice in the middle of a Bonker. But the one thing that stood out with Bonkers is that chocolate was one of the flavors. And chocolate never really was introduced into the fruit chew kind of a candy.
Right.
But there
Even
was
for
a
reason.
chocolate. There was a chocolate that had like a light brown outer and a dark brown inner. And so you had your typical mixed Bonkers package. That was the standard variety. But you could also, for fans of specific flavors, they also made just straight flavor packages of Bonkers. So if you like chocolate, you could just get a chocolate package.
Okay.
Now, here's the interesting thing about this, is that there's a company, after they went out of business, it was years and years, there was no action on the Bonkers front. A company called Leaf Brands purchased the trademark in 2012. And by 2015, they were advertising that they were bringing Bonkers back. This never happened. To this day,
It never happened. There was a lot of false advertising. Right?
they never brought it back, although I think they still have the rights to it. But Leaf Brands, it's not like this is their only deal that they have going on. They kind of are in the market of reintroducing classic candies that have gone by the wayside. At the moment, they have put out Wacky Wafers. Do you remember them?
Yep, I do indeed. Yeah.
So you can still get them thanks to Leaf Brand. They've also put back out Tartan Tinies. You remember them? Those little...
Tartan Tinies. Are they like sweet tarts?
They're like sweet tarts, but they're in little capsule, like rabbit food kind of things.
Oh, like pellets?
Yep. And then we have the Astro Pop, which is that yellow, green, and red pop.
Yep.
They've also put back out Hydrox cookies, which is like
Really?
the poor cousin to the Oreo.
For the Oreo. I think Hydrox actually came first, though.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's just a very piss poor name.
I'm most
Hydrox
impressed.
doesn't-
I'm most impressed with them reintroducing the wacky wafers, to be honest.
Huh. So was there a reason that they actually explained why they never re-released these Bonkers?
No, there's no explanation.
So they
whatsoever.
were all gung-ho. We got the license. We got the secret ingredients. We're going to start making these things again, and then nothing.
Then nothing. It's not like they're out of business because you can still get stuff from Leaf brand. But I don't know if the license lapsed or what have you. But yeah, to this day, there's nothing on the Whopper or on the Bonkers
somewhere.
front.
They're like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You bought what? You bought Bonkers?
And
Wow,
just to go over the flavors that were available
Yep.
in Bonkers, you had peach, you had apple, and with apple it was two different colors: red on the outside, green on the inside. Lemon, lime, and then lemon lime, which of course yellow and green.
Yeah.
Vanilla peach, peach apricot, chocolate, as I mentioned, watermelon, grape, orange, strawberry. And again, for most of these, you're getting two variations on the same flavor in the same little Bonkers chew. So there you have it. Fallen by the wayside, unfortunately.
Fallen. Tie-in.
Yeah. I'd pick up a pack if Leaf Brands ever came out with them again, just to...
Hear that? Hear that, Leaf Brands?
Yeah.
Get on it. You're bonkers not to. All right, bonkers. Bonkers it is.
In November 2016, on their Facebook page, Leaf Brands, here's the quote: "We made more samples of Bonkers fruit chews on the line last week, and we think they're pretty good. Getting closer, but no date yet." And that was in 2016.
Wow, they're still perfecting it.
Yeah.
Any day now. Hey, Joe, how are we doing on those bonkers?
So, okay, let's go back to the theater.
Yeah, we're going back to the back on set.
Yep. The big picture.
Ooh, sweet bacon. We got some sexy bacon going on here now. Big picture, 1989, like you said, coming right off the heels of a little Footloose action.
Yes, well,
And
Footloose was 84. So,
but I'm trying to think. So Tremors wasn't until 87 or 89.
I want to say Tremors was early 90s.
90s. You're right. I think it is 90. So regardless, Kevin Bacon at the height of his popularity.
You know what definitely came out before Big Picture? Quicksilver.
Oh, that's right. The bike movie.
Yeah, that was his first big one after Footloose. I think I saw that in the theater. Quicksilver.
Oh, okay.
I was all on board. With
All
Kevin
on board,
Bacon.
huh?
Yeah.
You're all in. You're all in on the bacon.
I was so impressed with Footloose. I'm like, I'm watching any movie this guy's in.
This is when he passes. That's all they're going to talk about. Known for his Footloose dance at the end.
Nick Chapman is who he plays.
Yep. And as we mentioned, directed by Christopher Guest.
Yes. Would you say that this is a stinging indictment of Hollywood?
Yes and no. It is a very I mean, I don't think it's a shock when you see how this unfolds. But it is kind of sanitized because there are plenty of guys like Nick who get sucked into the system and chewed up and spit out and just never see the light of day again.
Although, Nick is kind of a jerk because he gets seduced really quickly by everything.
So here's the thing, which is I brought this up because I remember seeing this not in the theater. I never saw it in the theater. But 89, I was only a year out of college. And for whatever reason, this movie really spoke to me. And I think on this viewing, I had a bit of an epiphany that I am Nick.
Oh,
That's a lot of what transpires here. And again, this is all pretty condensed in like I don't know, maybe a year and a half window at the most from the time he graduates school, gets brought into the system. I don't know. It just speaks to me. And I, we talk all the time. There's a reason we have this podcast, the romantic notion of making movies as a medium. And I love it. And this really just kind of throws a lot of cold water on the reality of sticking with your vision and compromising. And I think seeing it now as an adult, Nick is a bit of a jerk because he gives in way too quickly to a lot of things except for his vision that may or may not even be a good vision, because he's willing to, dump his girlfriends because he's all high and mighty. His relationship with Emmett, who is Michael McKean, really speaks to me. I think, if we have one relationship like that in our lives, you're lucky, because Emmett sticks with him. Emmett doesn't give up on him. And you could say, so we'll get into it, because you could say, well, Emmett compromised. No, when you have a family and you have to put food on the table, you do whatever you got to do to make that happen. And time again, Nick does not compromise on this quote unquote vision that he has for this movie. And by the end of it, he gets what he wants, but we don't know this. This could be a one and done.
But he lets himself get talked into making a different movie completely until he loses everything, and then he comes back to the original vision.
Yeah, which we still don't know is if so. Anyways, we'll get into it, because right up front we're introduced to Nick and a bunch of these other characters. Their senior film, student films to me are very pretentious, and especially here. They're all showing up at this National Film Institute for these student film awards. We get Eddie Albert in his last role ever.
Was he playing himself, or was he?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know, because I don't think that they ever introduced his character per se. He was just like, the MC. He might have been just playing himself. So, but like this, we're introduced to these three different students and their student films. And this first film alone has multiple cameos in it.
Multiple cameos and like every single camera trick in the book within 3 minutes,
which makes me laugh, because it's very pretentious. The only one that's not pretentious is Lydia's, and I will tell you, she is absolutely adorable, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. And I know people like this.
Well, she basically made an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse for her.
There's nothing wrong with it. At least it had personality. At least it actually shows a flair of creativity. These others are so dry. So the first film is like a courtroom setting, and we have Elliot Gould and Stephen Collins and Roddy McDowell, which is kind of fun, and then we get. So this blew my mind, because in my mind, this character, Tom, I think his name is, he was in Head of the Class, the heavyset guy.
Yes.
And when I'm watching this unfold, I'm like, that looks like Dan Schneider. It's Dan Schneider, the guy who's on trial right now, who has multiple documentaries. Quiet on the Set.
Oh, okay.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's him. So, and he does this. So, and he's, again, this very pompous short film. He's Napoleon on a horse, and all these dead soldiers are laying around. And after it shows, he gets up and he makes a comment about, regrettably, the special effects guy was killed while filming. Jennifer Jason Leigh's dad is Vic Moreau, who was very famously killed on an on-set helicopter accident during the filming of Twilight Zone.
I never knew that was.
I never knew that either. So she's there on set listening to this character say those lines as almost a joke.
Yeah.
It's a throwaway, because it just shows you that this character is just, he doesn't care. But that's Dan Schneider, and that just blew my mind.
And the funny thing is that Nick's is just as pretentious. Nick's film is just as pretentious as everyone else's. It's like it looked like a Dieter segment from Saturday Night Live. Cross Dieter with meeting the girlfriend's father for the first time.
Somehow he wins this prestigious film award. And I'm like, no, Lydia deserves that. And of course, immediately you got all these agents coming up, and they're like, "Oh, Nick, brilliant work."
So who was this? Who was this Alan Habel guy? Was he an agent, or was he like the head of a studio? I never really got.
I got the impression that he was head of a studio, played by J.T. Walsh, and he's just a scumbag.
at these awards trying to seduce whoever wins. And he goes up to Nick, gives him the card. It's like, call me, I'm Alan Habel. And everybody seems to know who he is, but it's not really told to you like exactly what this guy's role is.
Yeah,
but he's a big shot. He's a big shot in some way.
And of course he's got an assistant. But yeah, I saw this even when my daughter graduated school and they all have their final projects to present. I mean, there are people in charge of video game designs that are sitting there in that audience waiting to talk to these kids.
Yeah.
To court them to come work for them. So yeah. So we're also introduced to Michael McKean. Can I just call him Lenny?
Yeah.
Emmett. And that he is in fact Nick's buddy friend.
Well, he's Nick's cinematographer on his student film. And so they have a pact where they are going to work together from now on. Whatever Nick gets, he's going to be the cinematographer.
So that's our introduction to these characters. So immediately Nick is being courted by all of these studio execs. And
everybody, what's funny, what's telling about these other student characters. Lydia is the only one that's happy for Nick of his fellow nominees. Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of grumbling and backstabbing, and I'm sure that goes on in every industry. But yeah, it's very obvious that they're not happy they did not. So it makes you like the character of Lydia all the more.
I was gonna say I don't think that she's unlikable at all.
No.
Yeah, and she just kind of rolls with it. Even when we see her later in the movie, she's just happily collecting shopping carts. She's fine. She's content.
Yeah.
She's not caught up in the machinations of what success is.
All these agents also court Nick, and one of them you mentioned last time is played by Martin Short. And it's not really explained, but apparently he does become his agent. Because in the beginning, you just see him taking a lunch with Martin Short, and Martin Short is trying to sell himself. Mr. Sussman is his name.
Yeah,
looking like a red Monchichi.
also soft and cuddly. Yeah, and he's uncredited in this movie.
So many people are uncredited until the end. Is he even uncredited in the end? Is he in the closing credits?
No, he actually said that he takes He's regrets not taking a credit in this movie because he loved this character, and he's over the top and very flamboyant. At one point, he sends the waiter. He says, "Oh, send that guy over there a drink in the corner." And then he says, "Did he say anything? Did he say anything?" And this just shows you like the level of Hollywood, which is the waiter's like, "Well, he seemed pleased, but beneath the surface, I detected sadness." Like that probably really does go on, that stuff. Yeah, so we're introduced to Martin Short, and he is a fun character that shows up numerous times throughout this movie.
Yes, because he becomes Nick's agent.
Yeah.
And you'd think, well, Nick's never going to hire this guy because he's not even paying attention to what he's saying. But nope, he's Martin Short, so you got to have him as the agent. So he does come back several times.
Yeah.
And this movie, because as Nick is being told by these Hollywood executives what his movie should be, he's getting all these visions in his head of scenes from his movie or talking to his girlfriend, breaking up with her. And he envisions it as a scene from like an old Hollywood.
Yeah, there's a couple of these cutaways, which are fun. Right at the very beginning of the movie, when they're going into the parking lot of the film awards, and he pulls up to the studio gate and he immediately flashes to like a checkpoint in Germany. Papers, please.
Because he's afraid that he's not going to be let in,
right. He's a fraud.
Yeah.
But those are fun. I wish there was a little bit more of those. There is definitely some of these fantasy sequences.
You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of the HBO show Dream On.
I immediately wrote a note at the end of this because Dream On, I think this came out in 89. I think Dream On, hold on one second, because I do have it in my notes.
90? Maybe I think Dream On
July 90. And that's exactly where it is, where he does like these fantasizing movie TV related sequences.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they jumped on this. I don't know if there's a connecting tissue with a producer or somebody in this movie, but yeah, that's exactly what you're seeing here. So yeah, it looks like Nick's kind of over his head right from the beginning. He's getting thrown into this system. Everyone's kind of telling him what they want to hear. So tell me about your movie. And like you said, this Alan Habel immediately, love triangle. Well, what if it was two women? Well, how old are these people?
Right.
Well, in their 30s. Whoa.
Nobody wants to see people, old people. It's got to be young people. So the
Right.
movie starts to change into what Alan wants.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. The idea of, sticking to your vision and, it's like sticking to your guns. It's like, no, this is what I want to make. Well, no, if you want me to pay for this, we're going to have to make compromises. And the idea that, a movie actually gets made and people are happy with it at the end of the day. I mean, George Lucas famously gave up so many of his rights in order to just keep making Star Wars. The studio was up his butt. He was behind budget. They had no special effects, and he just kept giving things away because he just wanted it to be his vision. And he gave up pretty much everything except for the damn toy rights, which is what saved him. It's kind of unfortunate. You see, that, like I said, there's a lot of this that could, these people just come into the system and just get chewed up and spit out.
Yep. And he meets Terry Hatcher, who is just another vulture who sees Nick as somebody that might be willing to hire her.
Yeah.
And now she comes on the scene and she's got like a hairstyle that you don't want to be next to an open flame, or it's just going to go right up.
Right. Yeah, he goes to that party where he's introduced to her. This is her first role, by the way.
First time you'd seen her.
Gretchen. And he's introduced to this world famous cinematographer, Andre, who he just gushes over. Wow, I love your work, and the guy's like so nonplussed about it. He's just a stupid kid. Fran Drescher is Alan's wife.
She's Alan's second wife. Yeah.
Second wife. Yeah.
And Drescher, also from Spinal Tap.
There you go. Yeah. But there's fun stuff like Nick drives around this car, and I think it's a Nash Rambler. I'm not really. It's a really, really old, weird looking car. And there's just this fun traveling music that plays whenever he's in it. But as you see, as he kind of makes his way and, like you said, there's these numerous storytelling cuts where he's kind of like breaking from reality and he sees it as like a movie scene. Martin Short's continually telling him, this is what you got to do. You got to work with these guys. And, at one point he says, I'm just confused. He goes, no, you're not confused. It's just nervous energy. It's just, like trying to tell him how he should feel or how he really is feeling. And like you said, Gretchen character is just doing everything in her power to stay in his orbit, that maybe she can hitch a ride on his, whatever movie he makes. And
so he becomes convinced that she's interested in him, that this could be his next girlfriend. He breaks up with the
Susan,
the hometown girlfriend.
That stuck by him this whole time.
Yep.
He gets a little bit of fame, all of a sudden he's driving a Porsche.
It's a lease though. He's like
it doesn't matter. It's all perception. He shows up to pick up Emmett. They're going to have a lunch together. He literally drives around the street. He gets a phone call. He kicks Emmett out of the car so he can take the phone call, and then drives him back to his house. Like they don't even go to eat. He literally drives him around the corner.
Yep. And tells him that he's not going to be using him.
Yeah. I fought for you. Like he has a dream sequence where he's on set. He's walking the studio and he runs into Gretchen, and she's dressed as, Swiss Miss basically. And he has a little fantasy sequence, and the windshield wipers start going. Just silly stuff like that. But then he runs into Jonathan, Dan Schneider's character. He's like, oh, I see you have a movie in development. I've got 3. It's very condensed in what happens to him because all of a sudden, he thinks his movie's being made. Habel's behind him. We're going to back this. We're going to do all this stuff. I do like the one point where they're in the studio meeting. It's going to be in black and white. Whoa, black and white. And the lady's like, Nick, all the cameras are in color.
The projectors can't show a black and white.
The projectors are in color. Something like that.
So I'm wondering, because it didn't really, he picks up a paper and it says something to the effect that Alan Habel is out. I don't know why, what happened there.
No, that's just.
Was he in a scandal? Because he comes back just as easy a little bit later. I'm back.
Whether he's got a different studio now, like these guys just bounce around.
So if Alan Habel never left, Nick would have continued on the path of becoming a jerk. He would have made the movie with 2 girls. It would have been a teen sex comedy that was in color. So he's kind of saved by this Alan Habel being ousted, because now he tries to ship the movie or shop the movie to other studios and they want nothing to do with it because it's got Alan Habel's stink all over it.
Right.
So now Nick is becoming a waiter and he's got to take little odd jobs.
And this really speaks to me, because I will tell you, when I came out of college, I worked for a moving company. I worked for a lawn service. I dispatched cabs one Memorial Day weekend. You see him filling out an application for a waiter position, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a director." He's like, "Oh yeah, we got a lot of directors here," kind of a thing. So yeah, he crumbles really quick once Alan is not there to kind of prop him up. So here's the thing, which is, if you got to put food on the table, you take whatever job you can. And no, he continually sticks with this idea that this is my one movie that I want to. We all have that dream, whether it's a novel or if it's a comic book or if it's a song or if it's a movie. He's sticking with it. And at the end of the day, everything works out. He ends up taking this video with Lydia's friends, who are a bunch of band of Pez head people, and he films a video.
How did he get the rights to use Pez?
I know.
And how did that ever happen?
And apparently it only aired once, and yet everybody knows about it.
On Richard Belzer's video show, which I'm sure is an out-of-the-box hit with the kids.
Hey, you never know. Like, who knows? He could have made this movie. It gets released and it's a complete flop. And then what are you going to do? Maybe, Habel loses all credibility and Nick never works in the industry again. I mean, we're left, hopes high that he finally is making his film. But I mean, maybe he's the next Spielberg. Maybe not. I guess we'll never know. But it doesn't sound like he had too much behind it. Like, once you make this movie, now what are you going to do? Even if it's a monster hit, people are like, all right, yeah, that first album was phenomenal. Now make me a second one. Oh, it took me 45 years to write those songs.
So as Nick is taking all these little menial jobs and he sees his dreams crumbling, he realizes how wrong he's been. And so he reconnects with the old hometown girlfriend, and they go on a trip. He's trying to reconcile with her. And while they're away, he's not taking any calls. And this is after he makes the music video. So the music video is getting traction and everybody thinks he's playing hard to get, or he's doing a deal with somebody else.
Yeah.
So suddenly he is the talk of the town and everybody wants him, and it's unbeknownst to him because he's still on this weekend getaway with his girlfriend.
Yeah. So all within like a 2-day window, all of a sudden he's like the guy. Yeah. That everybody needs to work.
So Alan is back. He's with another studio, or, he's back from his troubles or what have you. And he wants to work with him again. So now Nick has some leverage. So he can shop his original idea. And that's what he ends up making. And it's very nice to see. It's with Emmett at the end.
Yeah, because he does go back to Emmett and he grovels. And he's like, I want to be your friend again. And Emmett's like, we never were not friends. He's like, no, I want. And I love this unspoken love relationship between these two characters. Because Michael McKean really doesn't have a lot to do except be Nick's conscience to a large extent.
Still, he doesn't have a lot to do, but his fingerprints are all over this because he's one of the co-writers of the movie.
Yeah, no, listen, like I said, for whatever reason, this movie really, really spoke to me. And speaking of Michael McKean, he actually sings the lead song for that Pez People video.
Yes, I did read that.
The whites of their eyes or whatever.
Co-written by Michael McKean and Christopher Guest. Again, it could be part of the Spinal Tap catalog.
Yeah, no, this was... So there's one sequence where you see the Porsche and you assume it's Nick's Porsche. And then it kind of pulls away and you see Nick in this beat up delivery car.
Yes. Yep.
It just shows like the downfall, like the fact that this guy had everything going for him and he thought that he was on the fast track. We never see the other student that we were introduced to at the beginning is suddenly Gretchen's agent.
Yes.
So these guys do seem to be more successful, even though they didn't win the prestigious film awards. But the idea, the fact that this character is getting sucked into this romantic notion of the industry, and obviously there's a lot of seedy people and endless distractions for people who just kind of want, they're all operating on their own agenda, and it's no different than the art world. And I don't know, it really spoke to me. And like I said, this go around, I'm like, I'm relating to this guy way too much, because when, I'm a little hillbilly from upstate New York, and my first job right out of college was in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it's a very romantic idea that, so you're suddenly working in the ad agency. This is long before, Mad Men. Yeah, unfortunately. And like you said, dream on, spot on.
Yeah.
That's basically, and you lose some of that toward the end. You don't really see as much of those fantasy sequences play out.
The last big one you see is that It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Scene.
John Cleese.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
John Cleese is the bartender. And it's funny because sequences where he's, dreaming are in black and white, and then it cuts to him sitting at the bar, and there's the movies on TV in black and white, and the bartender hits it and it goes back to color. And I'm like, see, no one wants black and white. But at the end, like you said, Emmett, he gets back together with Emmett. They're filming his movie. This is my dream right here. This is the three characters I talked about in the beginning. And
it's kind of like you see a roll call of characters that are the most important to him, like behind the camera.
Yeah,
his
mom
parents,
and dad are there. Yep, Susan's there.
Lydia's there.
And
Emmett, of course. And I'm like, oh, where's Terry Hatcher? I would have been nice to see her. Maybe.
Yeah, I would have
been serving drinks or something.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Right. She's at the craft table.
She's getting coffee for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought, because it's kind of like that inside Hollywood, that maybe this would be a decent pairing.
Pulls back the curtain a little bit, just like the Fall Guy did.
Yeah.
Like we said, director Christopher Guest, his directorial debut. And a huge career, of course, as a director after this. This was released in September of 1989, had a $5 million budget, only made $117,000
at the
box office. It wasn't really, although it wasn't really widely released, it was kind of like a limited, a very, very limited theatrical, and then went right to video. The Columbia president who greenlit it was ousted soon after he greenlit the movie.
So much like Alan.
Yeah.
Life imitates art, huh? The
new regime at Columbia saw this, were kind of insulted by the satire. Is he making fun of us?
It's I'm assuming it's pretty spot on. If people are offended by it, then it's got to be pretty truthful.
Yeah. So they kind of buried it. So it didn't
that's
do well.
Too bad. I get the impression that you were not impressed by it. So
I think it was really a fascinating time capsule for the late 80s. I always appreciate films of periods that I lived through that kind of speak to me, not in the same way that this movie spoke to you, but I always appreciate a good Christopher Guest movie. There were a lot of chuckle-worthy scenes in this. So it wasn't just for Hollywood insiders, It is very accessible. And Kevin Bacon, as much as he becomes a jerk, you cannot help but like Kevin
correct.
Bacon.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He's just a very likable character. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you hope that you want him to see a redemptive arc.
Now, have you heard the story about Charles Bronson?
Yes. So I couldn't really I couldn't find it because it's in a book. One of the producers or the location manager, Barry Gramillion, wrote this book actually called I Killed Charlie Bronson's Cat.
Now, and apparently it's also discussed if you have the DVD on the commentary
extras,
track. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not, the story itself is not readily available online. I couldn't find exactly what happened, but I guess they were filming. They rented Wink Martindale's house for that party sequence. And somewhere over the course of 3 days, they accidentally killed Charlie Bronson's cat, who had just moved in next door.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. If maybe there was something the cat ate and died, a light fell on it.
If it's anybody's cat that you don't want to kill.
It's Charles Bronson. I don't know.
Okay. How many buckets would you give to The Big Picture?
I am also going to give this 4.
Ooh. I
do like this. I like this a lot. And I'm glad this was a decent pairing.
Yeah, it is a decent pairing. This is, proto Christopher Guest. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 3 buckets, right in the middle, out of 5.
It's fun just to watch the Pez video.
Yes, the Pez people.
And yes, Martin Short really does. Every time he's on screen, he does steal this movie. There's that one scene where he's in the car and he literally is not touching the wheel for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So what else did we do this
I
week?
talk too much. You go first.
I was hoping you would go first because now I have to think what I did this week.
All right. Then I will go first.
Okay.
So this has probably never been mentioned on this podcast, but I am a really big Ben Franklin nerd.
Okay.
I love the man as a historical figure. I am fascinated by him. Endlessly witty, obviously, with Poor Richard's Almanac, just a womanizing portly gentleman that the women couldn't get enough of, and he just excelled at it. He loved his beer as well, and he was quite the inventor. But anyways, Apple Plus now has a show called Franklin with Michael Douglas as Ben Franklin. And it really kind of, at least season 1 so far, is chronicling the years where he went back to France to try and get France to back America against England, leading into the revolution. Okay. And the fact that, the Constitution or whatever, when we actually declared our independence. And I will tell you, Michael Douglas is just sexy in this role. He's got the long hair. He's not as portly as I envision, or I have seen Mr. Benjamin Franklin look in portraits. But it's very well done. He brought his grandson with him. Obviously, the man's not perfect by any means, and there's a lot of discussion about his true intention. And at one point, they actually send John Adams over to replace him because they don't, it's not like you can pick up a phone and call them and be like, hey, I'm still over here and I'm still trying to get these guys to give us some money. So they thought that he had just abandoned him. So it's just a lot of fun. It's very, very inside baseball politics. And my wife is not on board with it at all. But the costumes are fantastic. It looks like they're really filming in France. And I'm enjoying it. It's just something different.
On Apple, this is.
On Apple Plus, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think there's only, right now, maybe the 6th episode has dropped. So I've only seen like the first 5.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's just fascinating. The people with the big wigs and the costumes and the whole bit. It just looks like a very uncomfortable time period. The crap that people wore, it just really, even he's running printing presses, so he's running experiments. I don't know if you're familiar, but Ben Franklin actually had created this musical instrument made up of different glass.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, there's a weird, I can't remember the name of it, but it's all these different glass rods that roll together, and you pump it with your feet, and it rotates, and just like when you take your finger and you can wet them on the outside of a glass and you can run it around and it makes like a humming sound.
Yes.
If you fill it up with water, different levels of water will create different vibrations and different octaves.
They should have had him in on the making of Sergeant Pepper. That he would have been right up there with George Martin.
So at one point he's actually performing on this thing for an audience, and I'm like, he's really playing this thing. So but even like the printing press, when he gets that up and running, because he smuggles one into France, he's not supposed to have one, and it's a lot of work to make one piece of newspaper. Did
Ben Franklin come up with the saying, I see London, I see France?
I believe that is I don't know if that's attributed to him. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun, and I think Michael Douglas is just having a blast, getting drunk a lot. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Dealing with gout. Yeah. So there you go. Franklin on Apple Plus.
Yes. Okay, I got something for you.
Okay.
Always checking probably on a every other day basis to see what new movies are being uploaded to Shudder, my horror streaming service.
Yep.
That I treasure so much. And sometimes I watch something other than Joe Bob Briggs on Shudder. And in this case, I did. It was a new movie, called Infested. Now, if we were a threesome, we would never be covering this film.
Really? It sounds like something.
This is about a spider invasion.
Oh,
and okay, talk about enough. France. It is a French film, so it is subtitled.
Ooh, is this spider?
Yeah, it's the spider. So at the very beginning, it's I don't know if it's forgive my ignorance, all you spider experts, but I don't know if it's about a real species of spider, but it is found in the desert, and you see these guys in the beginning in the middle of the desert wrangling these spiders. They're looking underneath rocks.
Are they trapdoor spiders?
I don't know, but they're
Okay.
very poisonous, apparently.
Oh,
So they find a nest, and one of the guys is killed that are wrangling them, and they wrangle them to sell them to like exotic animal bootleggers in various parts of the world.
that's
And
dangerous.
so there's this one guy in France who has a couple of them in Tupperware containers, along with other animals. And one of his customers is this guy in his early 20s, and he lives in like a tenement project in France. It's this very architecturally interesting building. It's just like a big circle, made up of apartment windows. So I don't know if this is a real structure or if it's completely made up, but it's very visually appealing. So he has a menagerie in his bedroom. He's got like a scorpion. He's got various rare lizards and centipedes and millipedes. He just loves exotic animals, and he sees this spider, and he is immediately taken by it. So
I gotta have it.
gotta have it. So he takes it back home. He puts it, and he also on the side, he buys and resells sneakers, like not just any old sneakers, but the limited edition sneakers. So he commands top dollars for these sneakers. So he's got all these shoe boxes everywhere in his room as well. So he takes a shoe box, he takes the spider out, puts it in the shoe box, and says, "I'll find a home for you later tonight." And he puts the shoe box on his
Boxes
desk.
have holes on the side.
This one doesn't, but the spider makes a hole in the side.
With like laser eyes? Like how does he get out of the
No,
box?
it eats its way out of the box.
Really?
So the spider, I don't know, is about
That's big. So
about
it's like
as big as your hand. It looks like a
wow.
little
So it's like a tarantula.
not a tarantula. It looks like a large black widow type spider.
Okay.
So this thing gets out, and apparently, I don't know if it must have been pregnant already because it lays eggs, and suddenly during the course of the movie, the spiders multiply throughout the apartment building. And it's revealed that this species can grow to 10 times its original
Oh my gosh.
size.
This is a new movie. I saw the trailer for this.
Yes.
Isn't this? Yes.
So there's various size spiders. There's some that are like as big as your head.
Yeah. No, thank
and
you.
they all look practical somehow.
Shelob.
And there's baby spiders, so there must be incest going on in order to actually populate the entire building.
Spiders don't care.
So they end up, because they're meat eaters as well, they end up killing the entire populace, and soon it's this guy and a band of his friends that are the only survivors. The government is keeping them all pinned inside because they don't want the spiders to get out.
Sure. Yeah. You got to contain that.
So they're just leaving everybody to die until they can actually bring down, so they can actually destroy the building to try to stop the spiders. It is, I don't have any innate fear myself. Listen, I'm not going to go kiss a spider that's on my wall. Don't get me wrong.
Come here. Get over here.
But I was getting creeped out by this, especially when they show some of the big ones, because you can tell it's like there's some practical ones there, there's some CGI ones there.
Oh, that's good, because when they're CG, it's like I'm not buying this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So speaking of that, obviously, we just mentioned at the top of the show. Yesterday was Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah,
and that Star Wars holiday special doc was on Vice. A Disturbance in the Force.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll be able to get it on streaming.
You should check it out. And I forgot, I should have actually texted you and let you know, because I
think Vice somehow is tied to Hulu. So
okay,
yeah.
So if that's available, you should watch it. But one of the things they pointed out is during B. Arthur's song where she's in the cantina, one of the creatures is a giant rat, and it was actually controlled by Rick Baker, who we know was Kong in the 76 Kong.
Yes.
And it was a prop left over from Food of the Gods.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And I've already watched this thing.
Wow.
Once. Yeah. I'm like, that's cool.
I guess it makes sense.
Got a second life. Yeah.
That was only a couple of years out from that movie.
Food of the Gods was like 76.
76, yes.
76.
Yeah.
See, every now and again I do something right. So yeah, I thought that was cool. So he had a little cameo singing with.
So you saw a trailer for this movie.
The
Infested.
Infested. Yeah. I want to say I just saw it in the theater recently.
In the theater, really?
Unless there's another stupid giant spider
I
movie.
doubt it. I'm
trying to remember where I would have seen it, but yeah, I'm like.
Was it French? Was it subtitled?
No, actually, no.
Oh, then maybe there is another spider movie out there. Then
we're not talking about it. We're not covering it. I don't have issues with spiders. I usher them out. If they're in my house, I will take them outside.
Yeah.
So, but
you don't want word to get out that you're a killer. So one day you will be covered in spiders.
That is true. They'll all come here to nest.
Yeah.
Like safe zone. So.
All right. So next time, what are we doing?
What are we doing next time?
Have we picked a Kofi tree yet, or have we? Oh, we have. We
did.
Yes,
you chose it, and I'm all on board. Yeah. So we are going to the apocalypse. Furiosa.
I'm gonna have to watch Fury Road again just to reacquaint myself.
I do have the 3D Blu-ray.
You do? Okay. Hopefully it's streaming somewhere that I can get it.
I'm assuming
available.
Probably Max if you're gonna find it.
Yeah. So Furiosa is a prequel to Fury Road, centering on the titular character Furiosa.
I did hear we're gonna get a Hardy cameo.
Now not played by Charlize Theron.
No, this is interesting. We're going with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, so a young version of the character.
Yeah, this is her origin story.
Yeah.
Although we do get the toe cutter guy, the whatever that guy's name.
Well, you have to have him.
He's the bad guy, but I think he's the same actor. I think it's.
Well, I would hope so. And we also get Thor in this thing.
With a prosthetic nose. He does not, right? He does not look or sound at all like Chris Hemsworth.
Now, apparently, Hemsworth lobbied very hard to play Mad Max in Fury Road.
Really?
Obviously didn't get the part, but, as an Australian actor, that's got to be like the dream role.
Sure. Yeah. Probably everyone had to see that. Did you see he did? I don't know if it was a recent interview where he's come out and really lamented the fact that he's very sorry.
Yes.
For Love and Thunder.
The quote was, "I didn't stick the landing."
He got too caught up in the goofiness.
Yeah.
He's taken the fall for that. I think there's a lot there's a lot of people that should be blamed for that.
Yeah, well, it's not like he was acting all serious in the middle of all the ridiculousness. He was buying right into it, and I think that's all he was trying to say, is that, I was complicit.
Well, that's fine. That's a tone that the director is setting. So,
yeah.
Anyways, so yes, Furiosa, which is there's a trailer every 10 minutes, and that drops Memorial Day weekend. So we're going to be right on the cusp of that.
Yep, we will.
And we are pairing this up with a movie that you recommended, and I'm going to say honestly, I have not seen this since probably it was released on VHS.
Me too. I have close to no memory of this, but I figured it would be a fun.
I think so, yeah, because the obvious is to go with yet another Mad Max movie, and you're like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
We're going Red Sonja.
Red Sonja, another strong female character. Yeah. I don't know about actress, but character. Well, I just want to.
Yeah. I will tell you right now, I do know for a fact I have the Marvel Super Special adaptation. As I've mentioned numerous times, that is how I saw most of these stories long before I actually saw the actual movie.
I think I have that somewhere too, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Classic.
Yep. With a cameo by Arnold himself. Not as Conan. I don't believe he's playing Conan here, but somebody else.
But don't they exist in the same universe?
They should, if they don't in this movie. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see.
Now, who is the actress who's playing?
Brigitte
Nielsen. Is this before she hooked up with Sylvester?
Good question. I think it is the same year as Rocky IV, but I think it came out previous.
85?
85, and Rocky IV came out at the very end of 85.
Yeah, November.
Yeah.
Saw that in the theater. I would break you. It's Sonja. All right. I'm actually
Red
very
Sonja.
excited for Furiosa. So
Another 2+ hours, though. Another 2+ hours. We'll
That's
see if it's worth
fine.
it. We'll see if it's worth that runtime.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I know 92 minutes is the sweet spot, but
Yeah.
that's what we're being told.
I guarantee
If you-
I
if you're-
guarantee that Red Sonja is not 2+ hours.
It's 2+ something though.
Yeah.
That's all right. If you keep me entertained, I don't care how long it is.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
Fury Road, so
Furiosa.
All right. So there we go. We are leaving the film industry and we are heading to the apocalypse.
Yes, we are.
The future.
The future.
Yes. Although I think Red Sonja exists kind of like in its own, has nothing to do with Earth.
No, it does
right?
not.
Just
It's
a
its own
fantasy
reality.
realm, fantasy realm. All right. Well, very cool. Thank you.
Yes,
As
thank
always
you,
for
everyone.
listening. As we mentioned at the top of the show, go check us out on YouTube. Apparently.
Apparently we're gaining traction there for some reason.
Yeah, and I like it. And that's your sexy bacon for the week. All right, man. We'll
All
talk
right.
to you next
Thanks.
time.
Bye.
All right, bye.
If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Weird.
I couldn't understand a word that this guy said.
No, that's
in
what I'm saying. I hope there's subtitles because, yeah.
Oh, you can
Excuse me? What?